What is good? What is good? What is good? What is good, ladies and gentlemen? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the J Love Podcast with your boy J Love. How y'all doing? Gotta love this beautiful rainy weekend out here in the Bay. Hope you guys are having a good time inside. We are recording this as of noonish. Getting ready for the exciting Jake Paul fight here in about maybe an hour or so. But before we get to that fight, I want to break down a little NBA for you guys. I know I brought up the fact that we were going to go over the NBA and how the NBA looks as of at this moment in time. And I want to start out with talking about how great of a game that was last night. Celtics and the Sixers live in Philadelphia. You know, only one team could go out with the win, and it's tough when, obviously, I'm a Sixer fan. Tough to see last night Joel Embiid hit that shot, but the ball was still in his hands with when the time expired. Celtics pull out a 3-point win. Such a great game, and it really showed the thin line between these teams. And it's those moments. You go back and look a couple of years ago when the Sixers lost to the Clippers with that rim-in shot by Kawhi that broke the back of every Philadelphia fan, including mine. Yeah, it's just those are the kind of moments that live throughout Philadelphia history. You go back and look at the series against Atlanta, Game 7, with the game on the line with 2 minutes to go, and how the Hawks kind of pulled out a kind of a run out of their arse, if you will. And that was the whole Ben Simmons downhill thing about 2 years ago. So ever since then, you kind of get the feeling that Philly is a play away from beating a team like this. And you got to feel for them, because if you look at the, halftime, Philadelphia looked pretty good. Moving the ball, taking good shots, good looks at the basket. But it wasn't a full game's worth of good play. I felt like the third quarter they kind of gave up. When you give up 40 points in the third quarter, that's pretty much the game right there. So they'll bounce back. It's a tough loss, but Philadelphia, they do kind of control their own destiny. They're about 3 games up in the East. At the third seed. Let's go over the East real quick. So obviously Boston is number 1, sitting a game over the Bucks. After the Bucks, it's Philadelphia sitting behind the Bucks, 3 games back of the Bucks. And then after that, you got the Cavs at the 4 seed, 3 games back from the Sixers. So I feel like the top 4 seeds in the East are pretty much locked. The separation between the Cavs and the 5th seed, which is the Brooklyn Nets, is 2 games. I kind of feel like that's going to stay or expand, given the fact that that the Nets don't really have a superstar player, so you can't feel like you're going to get a consistent team from them or a consistent game from anybody really on that team. So yeah, I really feel like the East is kind of a 4-team deal. And to be all honest, I don't really think Cleveland has enough to win a title this year. Maybe next year when some of these better teams start losing guys or guys start getting, start aging. But right now, I think Philadelphia, Boston, and Milwaukee sit at the top of the East in no particular order. And then after the Nets, you have the Knicks sitting at 6. You have the Heat sitting at 7. You have Atlanta sitting at 8. And then right underneath them at 9 and 10 is the Raptors and the Wizards. And then, of course, the Bulls and the Pacers and Orlando are kind of lurking around. I don't know if they'll be able to get enough wins to get in with maybe 20 games or so left. But that's basically the East right there. And like I said, there's so much separation between the top four seeds and the rest of the East. I kind of don't really trust any of those teams to compete really with the top 3 or 4 teams that are in the East. So it's going to be a good playoffs either way. I don't think there's going to be a sweep specifically in the East. Last night kind of proved to me why Boston's the 1 seed. I still can't officially say that they're going to win the East. I still think Philadelphia has enough juice to beat them. Now, obviously, Game 7 is going to be the critical thing because if you have 2 evenly matched teams, you're going to have to get a road win to even survive. Just to even make it to Game 7, you're going to have to win a road game. Or to win the series, you're going to have to win 1 in Boston. So that's kind of the thing when it comes to the East. And if you look at the teams left that are kind of competing for that 8th seed, you look at a team like the Heat, who are still in the playoff hunt regardless of a 4-game losing streak. You got Atlanta, who broke off the Cavs a couple of nights ago after switching up coaches. And it kind of feels like they're going to go offensive. Instead of that old school approach, they're going to bring in a guy that's all analytics, that's going to run and gun and get these threes off. I kind of feel like that's the league. But definitely pace and space for Atlanta moving forward. And I think that fits them. I mean, Atlanta, put up a 49-point quarter, the second quarter, I believe, against the Cavs or something like that. So, yeah, you just look at the East. Although there's a lot of good stories, the Knicks especially, and a lot of Knicks fans want to get that 5th seed, which they're kind of right there. They're it looks like they're 2 games back of the 5th seed, so there's potential that they can kind of get into that mix and possibly play Cleveland rather than Philly in the first round, which is to be 100% honest, I would be doing that same thing. Trying to get out of the way of any of those top 3 seeds. And I think, to be honest, I think the Knicks could probably beat Cleveland in a 7-game series, depending on the matchups and everything like that. But I'm excited for the Eastern Conference. Let's do a little deep dive in the Western Conference as well. So we got the Nuggets sitting on top at the 1 seed, followed by the Grizzlies, who are 5 games back. So Nuggets got a little breathing room. The Kings sitting at 3, 2 games back of the 2 seed. You got the Suns, who are playing right now. I don't know if they'll win or lose, but depending on if they win or not, you're looking at about a game back. If you lose today, you're looking at 2 to 3 games back at the 4 seed. 5th seed is the Clippers, and they're actually a half game behind the Suns. So that'd be a huge loss if they did end up losing today, because the Suns could potentially fall down to 5th seed and have to come off the road in the first series. Once you get past 4 seed, you're going to be starting a series off on the road. I don't think that's what Phoenix wants to do. They definitely want to get into that top 4. But sitting pretty at number 6 would be the Mavericks, who are, looks like a half game back of the Clippers, followed by the Golden State Warriors, who just won last night, picked up a real good win over the Rockets. And then the Timberwolves are sitting behind them, and they're actually tied with the Golden State Warriors. So it's really neck and neck. Those last 2 spots in the West, because you want to talk about a logjam. Golden State, Timberwolves, Utah, the Pelicans, the Thunder, the Trailblazers, and the Lakers are all within a game of each other. That's insane. That just shows you the razor thin margin of error that takes to win in the West. That's why all these Western Conference teams pulled trades. They all made a trade. Phoenix made a trade. The Grizzlies made a trade. The Kings made a trade. The Clippers made a trade. The Mavericks made a trade. The Warriors made a trade. The Timberwolves made a trade. Utah made a deal. Pelicans made a deal. The Trailblazers made a deal. And the Lakers made a deal. Every last team in the Western Conference made a deal at the trade deadline because they all know they are all literally right there from each other. And to be honest, if the season were to have started from the All-Star break on, or after the trade deadline on, I'm not so sure that the Nuggets would be the 1 seed right now, given the fact that they have a lot of guys sitting out with injuries, given the fact that these other Western Conference teams didn't really know who they were until now. It kind of feels like the Nuggets are just the same old team, that they kind of got away with playing teams that were inferior in terms of talent, in terms of depth. And when you look at the West and how it looks like now compared to what it looks like before the trade deadline, to me, it really feels like the LA teams and Phoenix just got exponentially better. And the Nuggets kind of stood pat. I don't really think the Nuggets are a great team, to be honest. I don't think they're going to win the West at all. I think they're fool's gold. I think they're the Minnesota Vikings of the NBA. And we went over how I feel about the Vikings a couple episodes ago. So listen, it's nothing. It's no slouch on the Nuggets. It's no slouch whatsoever on what they've done. They've earned themselves an opportunity to have the 1 seed, and be up 5 games to rest some of your guys going into the stretch run of the playoffs. But here's the thing. Let's say that, right as of right now, the last 2 seeds are the Warriors, Timberwolves. Let's say the Lakers finish out the season with a historical run. They look like the Phoenix Suns in the bubble, where the Phoenix just ran off 20 straight wins and just looked like a predominant team. Let's say the Lakers do the same thing this stretch run, and they win 11, 12 games to get in. They get into the play-in tournament, and maybe they win the first game, and then they win that second game and get that 8th seed. You're really telling me that at this moment in time, Denver would honestly feel like they would be the best team in basketball, playing a team that has won numerous games and has LeBron James and Anthony Davis on it? I'm sorry, but I don't care who you have on that other side. At the end of the day, when you're naming off players that you would like to pull out of the rosters, if the Lakers and the Nuggets played each other, the first 2 players that people would pick would be the AD and LeBron James. And after that, I'm not even so sure that Jokic would be the 3rd best player taken. The fact of the matter is, I don't really feel like Denver is going to create opportunities for themselves to successfully go through the West and then win the NBA Finals. I personally don't believe they're good enough to do that. I personally believe that they're the Minnesota, like I said, they're the Vikings of the NBA. They play an easy schedule. They played a lot of teams with a lot of guys hurt. They're a type team that you have to really game plan for, otherwise you're going to get broke off. And also, they kind of have a cheat code where very few teams have a guy that can defend what Jokic brings to the table. Long tangent there. I do apologize, but that's just how I look at the NBA. I really believe that the West is wide open. Not in regards of there's nobody to win it, just in regards of there's all through the West. There's plenty of teams that feel on any given night they look like a team that's going to win the West. There's nights where the Thunder look like the best team in the West, just when they move the ball. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is their prime superstar right now. He goes for the throat. He's doing a lot of things that you want to see out of your best players. Go look at the Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards looks like a baller. He looks like a bigger Derrick Rose, just smacking up the court. Yeah, he lost a couple of nights ago against the Hornets, but I firmly believe that the Timberwolves are here to stay. And they'll be competing for a playoff spot. The Clippers, they got better, as you can see. Yeah, they lost a lot of defense from not having Zubac. I think once they get Zubac back, that'll kind of give them that intensity at the rim that they didn't have when they had Mason Plumlee in there. But I think that's the one thing that they're missing. Once they get Zubac back, I think they'll be a really strong team because they'll have a guy that can put his back to the basket and defend the rim. And that's something that Mason Plumlee has never done. That's why he's moved around in the league, because he is a good big. He can rebound, he can, but he's not a defender. He's not a great rim protector. And that's kind of why he's been moved around, because he's not really a starting big. And so I feel like I said, I think once they get Zubac, I think that team is going to be pretty loaded. But it's going to me, the vastly most superior team since the trade deadline is the Lakers. It's not even close. We've seen 2 games now of utter dominance. Not just, and it's 2 playoff teams. I mean, the Warriors right now are 7th, and the Pelicans right now are 10th, but they're right there. They're a game back of the 8th seed. It's not who they're beating, but it's how they're doing it. You look at the 3 guys that they brought in: Vanderbilt, Malik Beasley, and D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell didn't even play most of that Warriors game, and they still look just as good as they did when they played the Pelicans. A lot of this is LeBron James and Anthony Davis were playing around 35 minutes a night for the full season this year. Since the beginning of the year, they've been both playing about 35 minutes a night. That's not enough rest for either one of them. And so the plan was, when you went out and did this trade, that it would move the minutes back for these guys to maybe about 30 minutes a night. And then you set them up to then go for those 35, 40 minutes a night in the playoffs. But right now, minimizing the minutes and allowing tough shooters to go out there and make buckets when your star players are sitting the pine, that's exactly what the Lakers needed. That's honestly what Philadelphia was missing yesterday without Embiid on the floor. When you take away your star player, you want to be able to have a team that can go out there and move with the team and create that plays, create easy buckets to the basket. And that's just something that the Lakers just barely got when they were able to get Malik Beasley and D'Angelo Russell. They were able to then move some of their younger guards to the bench, and you kind of see it how they're able to use those guys now. Dennis Schroeder, Reeves. AR-15, shout out my boy, shout out my brother. He calls him AR-15. But that's the reality of the Lakers now. They've moved all those guys that were starting originally. Troy Brown, they moved all those guys to the bench. So now Rui Hachimura, those guys are killing it off the bench. And it's, to me, I want to see them. Obviously, they play the Mavericks here shortly, but I want to see how good this Lakers can continue to be. Can they stay consistent with that 3 ball? Because if that's the case and they run off 5-6 wins, this is not the team that Denver wants to play first round. So it's going to be interesting. I think both playoffs, the West and the East, they're both going to be pretty close. I don't think there's going to be any sweeps. I think there's a lot. Both conferences are loaded with talent. I think a team, if you go back and look at the East, I think a team like the Bulls are right there. And I don't know what it is that they're missing, but it feels like they're right there to get into the playoffs and really make some noise. And it's fun to watch, because now you're starting to see some of these teams really compete, really put everything together, really put that final piece to the puzzle, and really make your team blossom in front of the world. And this is the perfect time to do it. You saw Jason Tatum yesterday hit that Kobe shot last night to put down my Sixers. And that's the kind of performance you need from your star players when you're struggling and you can't get your good looks. Can you come out can you come up big in other ways? We saw Embiid do it this week against Memphis. Down 18, came all the way back. Embiid kind of became the facilitator, found some of his shooters, Tobias Harris in the corner. And that's kind of how they need to run. There's some nights where Embiid can go out there and just dominate and drop 50 a night. But sometimes he's going to have to go out there and be Jokic. Find your shooters out there and let them cook. So they'll get it right. And I think some of these other teams see those kind of holes in their team as well. It's going to be fun. I'm excited. I'm a huge fan of the NBA, so I can't wait. I really can't wait. I'm low key. I kind of want that Knicks Philly matchup just so I could see my team, beat the brakes out of the Knicks in the Mecca. Of course, we're talking about the Madison Square Garden out there in New York. It'd be a nice fun series. Both fan bases are hardcore fan bases. They both, want their team to win more than anything. It'd be fun. I think it'd be a dope series. It'd be kind of old school. So that's what I'm kind of excited for in the playoffs. But I can't wait. I really hope we get there. I wish I had a time machine and got there as quickly as possible. But for now, we're going to get some exciting games. As I said, Dallas is going to play the Lakers here shortly. And I'm ready to rock. We're ready to roll and can't wait for these playoffs. So that was my take on the NBA as of now and what I see in the future. We'll kind of go over it a little bit more, in the next episode. Might have some more teams, more discussions, more takes. And it's always love with your boy J Love. And on that note, this was the J Love Podcast. I'll see you guys next time. Deuces!